Hello, everybody. I hope you got your coffee, or if you're in the UK, you can have tea or water. I'm sure
Vodka.
that's very special water. And here we are again, being in nature with Zeeshan Haider Khan, who's our herbalist, organic gardener, and lifestyle coach, and the man who is trying to create a wholesome surrounding for his family. And he has a real pioneering spirit. He moved up into the mountains or hills of Wales, further away from civilization, so that he could bring a even purer lifestyle into his vocabulary. And so here we are. How you doing, there, Zeesh?
Yeah, good, John. Great to be back. Great to see you all. Yes, we're not planning this. Me being out here in nature. It's just since the 13th of June, been trying to get the internet sorted, and it's been a whole can of worms. So, like today, we're in a really old wall covered in lichen, and it just so happens to be a safe space because if I go up over this wall right now, we're going to hear winds coming at us from this place. And they've been some fun. Where are we going to do the live? How are we going to do this? So yeah, we're good. We're on a Welsh mountain. I got out just before the COVID stuff, craziness happened. Really, the quote for this year is "You couldn't make this stuff up."
Yeah,
And yeah, had a few friends wanting to buy me a farm, and that wasn't happening, and all these different ideas. And in the end, again, it always falls back on you, isn't it? You can't expect anyone else to sort your life out for you. And we managed to get up onto the mountain, and God, it's again, this year has been an accelerator. But anyway, great to be here. Great to be with Detroit in the house. And yeah, wonderful. Isn't
good
it
old,
great to use the internet for goodness?
yeah, we have to provide a counterbalance to
Yes.
all the nefarious deeds that are being perpetrated from the world of lies. And the thing is that the world of lies, there really is no such a world. They're like they're emptying their souls into a vacuum of nothingness. It's a true cancel culture. They're canceling themselves by pursuing their falsehoods and squirting ink into their auras. So it's not a pretty picture, and we can only pray for them and hope that they find their way back to the God of love. But some of these people, I think they might be far too far gone. They've already signed those agreements, and they probably signed them in blood. But anyways, we like to go into lighter subjects. So speaking of light, it's a little cloudy there today. I
Yeah,
see you
it's
got
yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful Britain for us.
yes. It's unknown to our viewers, but we have to go through a bit of challenge every time we do this to figure out which way the wind is blowing and where he can set up, and if the light conditions are right. We've been very fortunate in that we haven't had to fight off any rain. And, maybe you'll have to do a podcast out of a barn.
Yes, near a well.
You're well, yes.
Oh, well, yes. Well, today we're in a wall today. We're in a lichen wall, which was put here by elders and people that families. I'm on a mountain right now with this family and this connection, and the animals still have horns, and the manure is organic, and the air is pure up here, and the water, and yeah, and in amongst all this craziness and chaos that we're all experiencing right now, and the praying for these people, and John's talking about the blood, and you know that whole "you are what you eat," And like today, I was wondering to myself, what am I going to do the live? What am I going to do this YouTube live about? So just, you know, drawing on inspiration, things like the Bible, looking in Exodus and reading about the holy anointing oil. And, you know, me and John, you know, we have an agenda too. Like other people out there have an agenda. My agenda is to, in Britain we call it austerity. We had a lunatic farmer over in America, Joel Sarlatin, coming over here to the Sustainable Food Trust and talking about austerity and how we're all experiencing it in some way, shape or form. And I have 4 children, and you know, with the austerity, with the, you know, the, I didn't really know what technocracy was. We hear a lot of these words, and John's helped educate me a lot on things like, you know, the deep state and, you know, the Pilgrim Society. And technocracy is a word I was hearing quite a lot at the beginning of the year. I hadn't even heard of people like George Soros. And, you know, I knew a bit about Monsanto and GMO because that's what I'm in. I'm in seed. I'm in food. And last time we did this video, John was talking about Khorasan. And, you know, so today I've been thinking about, you know, my agenda is how am I able to grow food? You know, teach the man to fish. You know, give the man a fish and you can feed him for a day. But teach that man to fish. And when we say man, in this age of all these different identity things, we're talking about like who man or of the earth or man and woman, alpha and omega and the child. So you know, so when we're talking man, we're all inclusive for everyone. And so oh my god, so when we teach the man to, if we teach the man to fish, then we can feed him for a lifetime. So right now, I'm learning how to feed our family. We've been learning for about, well, I've been in the organic movement, biodynamic movement since about 96 when I was selling organic food to people. And now really where I'm to is bringing all those ideas and inspiration, which all of you are part of that inspiration, doing these communications part of that inspiration. And yes, if we talk about Khorasan, where people are waging war on things like the cow or the bread, you know, I'm gluten intolerant, I'm dairy intolerant, I'm, you know, whatever intolerant. No, when what we're actually, from my investigations, what we really are is technocratic, big brother, industrial food supply, glyphosate intolerant. So there we go.
Well,
We're not Khorasan intolerant.
and what do they say? They say that, well, that's a mouthful.
Oh, yeah, you know. So
Yeah. Well, you know, for me, it's all about the children, I think, really.
mhm.
That's the crux of this issue is do we recognize the sacred quality of childhood? And
Mhm.
if you remember in the Bible, Jesus says, except ye be as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. So you could spend a whole lifetime just meditating on that one sentence. And that's the way scripture is. And that's a point I've made before. I believe it was here. I don't. At this point, I've been doing so many different podcasts. I don't know when I said what to who, when, and why, but that doesn't matter because there's it's like layers on an onion. Speaking of the garden, you know that there's all these different discrete levels of significance that are connected to these things, and it's that connective tissue, so to speak, that bond that we have with nature. That when you get before the modern age that we're in right now, that began in 1413, when people entered into a more intellectual relationship increasingly to the world around them, they lost their capacity to be able to perceive into the etheric world of life, which the love of which is the represented by kingdom of the plants, the realm of growth in life. And in the human being, it has to do with the capacity of memory. And so you have your physical body, which this technocracy is basing the whole model of the universe on. And then above, just above that, you have this etheric world of life that can be fortified through doing the proper things in the physical world. Because ultimately, when we go to sleep at night, the ego, your individual I am, and your astral body, which is the body that partakes of movement, as was pointed out by Aristotle. Uh, the animal world has movement, so that makes it different from the plant kingdom, and that's because they are in possession of an astral body, whereas in the plant kingdom, you see that the astral acts on the plants, and so the image of the activity of the astral world into the plant kingdom is the bright colored flowers, but that is surrounded by the astral. It's not indwelling it on an astral level, although there are plants like the Venus flytrap that actually does have movement, so it has a rudimentary connection inwardly to the astral world. But when we go to sleep at night, because we become fatigued, the etheric body becomes fatigued from all the assaults on it by all the emotions and the turbulent astral body, so that we finally are catapulted out of our physical and etheric body, and we go into the astral world, the world of dream, with our ego and our astral body. And this is one of the aspects of ancient initiation, because they had two separate forms of initiation in the ancient world, and the other one was where they could actually even bring about a separation of the etheric body from the physical also, and by putting you into a trance condition and then awakening you to consciousness within the astral world, so that you see that a lot of these ancient temples and all that, they were centers of initiation. And you have the baptism that was done by John the Baptist. That was an initiation. But he didn't just sprinkle a little bit of water on your forehead. He held you under and brought you right to the threshold, right? And then brought you up, and they would bring about a loosening of the vehicle, so one that could have an experience of the activity of the supersensible realms, so that there's something very profound happening there. And in the esoteric tradition, it's said that one of the big complaints that the Sanhedrin had with Jesus was that he was making public aspects of certain rites that were secret temple rites. And so there's a profound mystery concealed in that. And consequently, as you move into an understanding of a garden and what gardening is, as you begin to enter into a more conscious relationship with the understanding of what the etheric world is and how you have the ethers that go through cycles during the course of the day, and that there's the periodicity of the moon, and you begin to learn the proper planting cycles based upon the cycle of the moon and the cycle of the year. It's just really a profound thing it wasn't approached intellectually in the ancient world. It was led by the priests, the ancient druids, or the various priests. These were agrarian cultures, and us into animal husbandry, knowing when to introduce the bull into the herd and all of that. It wasn't something they went and consulted some scientist about. It was a more intuitive, cognitive relationship, being able to see into the supersensible realms and be able to understand the workings of the beings of nature and the nature spirits and the devas, which are like your angels of nature, of the landscape, and all of that, and to be able to work with those forces. And so you see, like the old straight tracks that were discovered by Watkins in his book, The Old Straight Track. He noticed that there were these, what he termed ley lines, that crisscrossed the earth between certain sacred wells and power spots. And so you see that cathedrals in general were located at the position of the ancient Celtic sacred wells, so that there's this mystery of water that's going on. And just this morning, it's Douglas Gabriel's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Douglas. He's
Happy birthday.
listening. It's his birthday, and we were having a nice discussion on water and the fourth state of water that is the result of the work of Professor Pollock out in California. He said he's discovered that there's a fourth state of water that science had not known, but he extracted his research straightly from phenomenology, and that is observing what was happening, because you notice this fourth state of water, when water gets near a surface, it creates what he calls the exclusion zone, to where all the particulates, all the different particles that would be present in the water don't enter into that zone. And that, so that it becomes a very just the purest aspect of the water manifests when it comes up against the surface. Yeah, good old well water. And so,
Yay.
and you see that's something we ran into years ago when I was doing the heart research, because Rudolf Steiner said the heart is not a pump. And so we started investigating that work, and we were able to bring it forward so that there actually ended up being a peer-reviewed paper published in a medical journal. And perhaps we could talk about that in more detail sometime. But we were able to prove that the heart is not a pump. It can't be a pump. Just from the simplest level of structure, because that the apex or bottom of the heart, the tissue is so thin that were it a pump, the pressure would blow a hole through it the first time it started to so-called pump. So we know it's not a pump; it's more of a regulator of the flow, and we determined that it was peripheral demand, the activity that was happening within the capillaries. And so it's very exciting, because when you consider the work of Professor Pollock regarding what he calls the EZ, or the exclusion zone, that plays into what we were coming up against, was that, okay, it's peripheral demand. Well, what brings about peripheral demand? And so you see that there's this electrochemical mystery going on in the capillaries, because when you put water into the fourth state, it creates a polarity between the water that is in the blood, or that is not in the fourth state. So you have the third state and the non-fourth state and the fourth state in a polarization, which is much like the way a battery functions, right? So you have the separation that brings about a charge, and so that's quite a bit to meditate on there. But in getting into understanding the properties that are revealed in nature, you could see, for example, what is the difference between a cloud and the atmosphere? What is it? You start meditating on these things, and you start thinking about what is behind all this. And Riddle Steiner said that the problem that modern world has is that they're attempting to solve the problems using materialistic thinking, and that materialistic thinking is only effective in the mechanical world. And once you get beyond that and you move into the world of life and the etheric, and then beyond that, even to the astral and the ego, into the supersensible realms, it can't solve the riddles that pertain to those realms. And so, consequently, a lot of the mass psychology problems that people are having is because they don't have a spiritual life. They haven't cultivated that. And secular culture and mass media and entertainment and all this corporatism has taken that away from them. So it behooves people to reintroduce the spiritual life into their consciousness so that they include spiritual concepts. And that's an essential nature of farming, because so much about farming has to do with the cosmos. If you don't know the cycles of the year, if you don't know the cycles of the moon, you're going to have a difficult time farming.
Yes, yes. So, bringing it back to the children, I'm a father of, well, happy birthday, Douglas, and have a great day. And yeah, and so, yes, bringing it back to the children, I'm father of 4. And so I was talking to my friend Sean the other day, and he was going, Zeesh, I was saying to him, I'm without car, and I'm thinking about the plums. One thing I like about the Facebook is because of it gives you the memories. And so what I do for the memories, for my ego, so that I can remember, I'll go like, oh, what was I doing this time last year? Oh, look, I was picking apples. Shit, I better get to the apples. But now I'm on the mountain, so I've got to go at least an hour now just to get into the town. And then since COVID-19's happened, things that were once free, like public transport on the weekend and stuff, no longer isn't. And now, because we have all these new laws that have been instigated and these new things that have been instigated, John's mentioning children. Now, children are going to have to go back to school. Now, Zeesh has decided, because 2 of his children had a health challenge, and I realized that I didn't really want to put my children into an education system where I was putting their health into somebody else's hands, that hadn't really been with us, and we hadn't really known who they were. So I remember many people saying to me at that time how, and my own close family members that really want the best for you and your children, and at that time I was very much into Waldorf Steiner toys. So things like the Ossheimer toys, and making sure that I was doing things a little bit differently, because if you want things in your life to change, you have to do things differently, else you're going to get the same result. And so, I was like, okay, how can I do this a bit better? It wasn't my mum and dad's fault the way I turned out. So how can I do it better? And most of our parents, they take us to the doctor, they take us to the school. It's nobody's fault. It's just what their parents did. So I was wanting to do things differently. There was no organic clothing at the time, so I was buying a lot of organic clothing from over in Germany. I had a friend that was Swedish. She had a Swedish story, so she introduced me to things like Elsa Beskow and wonderful books and stories and things like that. Lovely merino wool. And when we were home educating, it's like the tinfoil hat meme. Now everyone's wearing these masks. Now everyone's wearing, not everybody, but a lot of people are now wearing these masks and doing all these things. And I remember many people would often say to me, Zeesh, why aren't you sending your kids to school? They're going to have lacking in social skills. Now, look at what's happening right now. That's all I'm going to say on that one. And, and then if we look at, so yesterday, so obviously, I've used the Facebook and I'm utilizing it as a tool. It's a tool where I'm able to reach to Brother John. I'm able to reach to a wider community. This tool was created for connection. It wasn't created as a political tool to promote fact checking and all these crazy censorship and stuff. It was created, we thought, for connection, human connection. We only think that we can't connect with each other psychically or whatever it is, once we connected with coconuts, they say, with little bits of string. You remember, with a little bit of coconut and a string? And we just have these so-called smart devices now, and we think we're so smart, but really we can probably connect to each other anyway. It's like that idea, oh, I was just thinking about you, John. Oh yeah. So anyway, yes, so I've used the Facebook and I've gone on there and I said, hello, I've just moved into the area. Can anyone help me? Because I'm in at the age of austerity, I don't have much, and I like connecting with human beings. And I'm like, can anyone help me? Does anyone have any apple harvests they're not wanting? And it just so happened a lady whose profile picture was that of a sourdough bread. Oh, warning, I'm on 20% battery. These smartphones don't hold much charge. But she said to me, come down to mine. So I went down there yesterday, my daughter, who's now 19, and my son, who's 5. And we walked down into the little village down there. I told John about it yesterday. We got to a little 13th century church where there was a beautiful yew tree, collected some beautiful bits of wood. And then we walked to this lady's house and we harvested the tree. Her husband happened to be a Pashtun. But like, what is the chances of that? My father's a Pashtun. And we ended up collecting a load of apples. And I met the sourdough lady. She wasn't a sourdough at all. She was a human being. And we picked the tree because there's all this social distancing. And we've been at home. And today we've been picking. We've made now 2 gallons of homemade apple juice, which we're now I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to use my Green Star juicer. I only get it out at this time of the year, and I'm going to juice the apples, and then I'm going to put them in the demi-johns, and I'm going to leave them to become an apple cider vinegar. That's one thing, and that's what I've been doing with my children for the last. There's a really good book by Vladimir Migra. It's called The Ringing Cedars, and I recommend people try and get a copy of book 1. You can probably get it online. And that's something that I've been doing as a father, is teaching my children about the hedgerow. Because I seen on Aim for Truth the other day, they were mentioning about how silver had been taken off the shelves of Whole Foods. Now, another thing that I'd recommend is, like how certain supermarkets were deemed essential during COVID-19, yet all the small businesses had to close. Well, what about Whole Foods and supermarkets? Why don't we start transfer spending, or maybe a better word might be transfer investing, what energy that we have into taking our money away from places like Whole Foods that seem to think it's okay to sell GMO canola oil. Yet, on the other hand, they're selling all these expensive health foods. And why don't we start to create little cooperatives, or start supporting, people that are sorry for putting up the hood. It's now starting to rain. We're on a Welsh mountain. So anyway, and so, by transfer investing our energy and investing in small businesses, investing in true, authentic, conscious businesses, and moving that energy away and just making that decision, I'm not going to do that anymore, and allowing that new door to open where we can expect new steps of change. And as I was again reading this morning about, because I've come to realize that natural medicine is so, so important. We're in this age right now, me and John were talking yesterday about kismet and submission, and how now people are being suggested to wear a mask, which takes away the smile, which takes away that connection. Now children are going to be expected to go back to school and be put into God knows what's going to be happening. And for us to say, as a global community, that we do not consent, because we mustn't forget that, GMO, I was saying this the last time, is a global concern. And we can all now start to take those small steps where we create change. Many of you might already be quite advanced in the sense of, you've already got your forest gardens. My friend the other day was saying how, if you're in America, get your ammunition, get your guns, get your, learn simple self-defense. stock up on the silver and the gold and the crypto, which I'm not into the crypto. And they were saying do things like create gardens and grow your own food and belly up with your community. And we're not using these words because I can see that a lot of the words that are quite innocent have been hijacked by these technocrats that seek to destroy the language and all these kinds of things. And one thing that and so as I was again looking today to bring some inspiration with these new ideas that me and John it's just off the cuff all the time. We don't plan this. It's just like, Zeesh, can you be on the call today? And we just do it. And so as I was looking in Exodus and looking in the Bible, because I like to collect Bibles here in Wales. You can pick them up in charity shops for about £1. And I love the old Bible, old books. I love old books. Great Western civilization where they've got the gold on them, like the gold leaf. We once made everything with an element of beauty and craftsmanship. And I remember so today, as I was looking in Exodus, it was saying about anointing oil. And so I was researching the anointing oil, and many people are collecting gold and silver. And I've been looking at this, but I don't have any money for buying gold and silver. I've just about got enough money to keep stocking up on my grey mineral sea salt or my chocolate, which are old forms of currency. But I've been thinking to myself, although I don't have silver and gold, and if we think about it, because my granny was an Afghan and she used to put silver in the food. And if we look at the beetles, and if we look at the opal earthworm, and we look at all the things that inhabit the soil, or if we look at the wings of a corvid jaybird, or the peacock, or all these different elements in nature, we start to see those minerals. We see those minerals. It's wonderful. And like when I look at the beetle, I'm in awe and inspiration of like, wow, look at that beetle. And so Zeesh has frankincense. Zeeshan has myrrh. I sell natural medicines because they're safe, effective, and incredible. I have the myrrh. I don't have the calamus, but I have the cassia and the cinnamon and the nard, the spikenard. So I'm wondering if these may be good things to consider us investing in and banking in, because when all the money goes down and we're having to transfer our energy, how good would it be when we have bottles of frankincense? I thought I'd bring that into the equation because that is one of my agendas, is to help other people. And as John was mentioning sleep, I think it was Tel Aviv University said that women that have high sources of melatonin are at lower risk of getting breast cancer. I think it was Tel Aviv University. And as John was mentioning sleep and rest, so these were some things that came to mind. Magnesium, Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate. Us now learning to calm down, learning to switch the blue light off on the phone, take an hour off from the computer, because we're hearing lots about how these devices are very addictive, this transhumanism. And as we are maintaining the pro-human, all life future, as we're constructing and as we are purveying weapons of mass construction and intelligence, we are moving forward. And we know that when we bring in cherries before bed in the evening, a good warming milk with some cherry or some prune or some raw unpasteurized tree honey, ideally from your own hive, but it may be your neighbor's hive. It may be the local community's hive, the CSA's hive, the small farmer who cares about you, the small generation farms that care about you. And we start bringing those things in and start self-care, nourishing ourselves, getting that good sleep. When you use Zeesh's spikenard before sleep with a little bit of mint or clementine, and you anoint yourself, because the book's giving us these clues. It says in Genesis, all those plants bearing seed, and he saw that it was good. So we start to anoint ourselves before bed and give ourselves to that self-care and nourishment. then we know that we're doing the very best that we can. Because not only, oh, hi there. Yeah, just talking to the wall. I know that. I'm alive. Tara. Anyway, yeah. So dropping mics, not bombs, brother Zeesh. Great to be here, John.
Dropping seed. Yeah, I think that, the challenge to a large extent is people getting all worked up into a frenzy. And the people that are the minions of Mordor, the ones that want to overwhelm us with their technocracy, as prophesied in the Lord of the Rings, the orcs that want to take us to their subterranean realm, they've become disempowered through the power of truth. And so much of what you just represented is so true. I mean, you think of the story of Mary Magdalene anointing the feet of the Lord with oil, right? And getting criticized because, hey, we could sell that oil and get some money, and but Jesus had her back on that one, right? It's keep in mind that the gifts of the Magi were gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and there's a reason why that's so. It's not just an interesting story for children. It's actually, by it being an interesting story for children, it makes it much deeper because there's a depth of wisdom that's expressed in the birth of a child, and so there's something magical about children before they become fully conscious of themselves as an individual. In the first 3.5 years of the life of a human being, they're being attended on by very high cosmic beings. And that's why these technocrats want to distort children, to abuse the children. And so the massive abortion and all the horrible things that are being done in harvesting for medical reasons and all other strangeness, it has to do with the children. So the biggest target of this force of darkness that's set upon us is that attack on childhood. And so, except you be as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. So that's an admonition that is hinting at the fact that you can enter into a relationship with the sacred beings that are involved in the early years of childhood, that bring about when the child moves from crawling to walking upright and speaking, and how that brings about thinking. And so many people have a certain threshold in early childhood where they can't go beyond. I mean, that's the way it is for most anybody. That beyond that, it's just like going into remembering what you dreamt last night. It drifts away from you. You lose your relationship. So reawaken relationship to the spiritual world, it can re-enter you into the relationship with the cosmic beings that were nurturing you in childhood. And the actual building of the supersensible organs of perception has to do with the fact that you get the attention of these beings so that they pay attention to you again, which is pretty profound. I mean, if you heard what I just said, I'll let that slip by. But ultimately, the eye was created by light to receive light. And so that whole principle of metamorphosis, that's the secret of initiation. It's through bringing yourself into a relationship with something consciously, develops in you a faculty or a capacity to perceive. And that's the mystery of the Grail, right? Because it's and enfolded in that mystery is the mystery of healing, because the ministry of Jesus Christ was a ministry of healing. He went around, and what was he doing? He was like chasing demons out of people, and even resurrecting people from the dead, healing all manner of people, making the blind see. This is not just a fairy tale. This is a reality. And to be able to enter into the reality of that healing ministry that is so tied into the miracles of the loaves and fishes, for example, or transferring the water and the bread, and that the sacrament of the transubstantiation, that's a tremendous mystery, of which myself personally, I experienced healing as a result of experiencing Holy Communion or the Eucharist within 24 hours. And so for me, it's a reality, and for other people, it could be a theory. That's okay. The basis of this is not that you want to get a bunch of people that believe you, but you'd like to know that you can communicate with people, and that they actually are understanding you or striving to understand you, and that they have a healthy suspension of disbelief. In a pause of silence.
Hi, John.
You okay? Is too much going?
The weather's crazy here. It's
Yeah,
kind of,
you
it's
might
kind of,
you
it's
might
kind of, it's kind of,
disappear at some point. And in any event, so how could people get a hold of you if they're interested in getting some of the herbal preparations that you make or something like that, especially in the UK because they're so close? We're kind of far away here in the US, but they could still get them from you. Is there a way they could do that? Are you disappearing on me? Oh, okay.
yes. Yeah. Well, we shipped.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay. Am I going?
Okay, well, for
well, I'll try.
people that are
I'll try and
wondering,
speak.
I'll put.
I'm hoping that you can hear me. So, all our oils and natural medicines.
I'll put the contact information. Yeah, I'll put the contact information for Zeesh and his herbals beneath the video on YouTube. Okay, and because we're having trouble with our sound here, and in the meantime, it's for me.
Yeah, I'll show you. Let me show them where I am so they can appreciate. They can appreciate where we are. Here you go. Look, we're here. So that's probably why we're having a bit of a challenge. That's where we were.
That's your studio.
So that's why we're having a bit of a challenge. Oh yeah, the studio. Yeah, Studio Zeesh. Taking on the orcs. But we've got to do. But we're doing it, aren't we? We're doing it,
Yeah.
So, there we go. That's better. Just by doing that, it seems to have made it all a bit better.
Yeah. Good. So
no, I ship oils across America too. I'm a global entrepreneur.
So they can contact you.
Apologies, John. Apologies to you as well.
You break it up again.
Yeah, I'll send you over a link. But we'll do more of these.
Yeah, we'll do more.
We'll do more of these. Time's on our side.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll do more of these.
And
we'll get there.
And for those of you that
I'll work something out eventually. I'll work something out. My apologies. I think I'll probably have to hold it up here. Hold it up here. But my phone's all cracked as well, so I'm a bit weary about getting the screen wet. But the weather's meant. We even had a weary traveller walk past us. So, but it's lovely to be here with John's community and if Zeesh's community's here. Really great to be here with you all. I'm quite conscious I'm on about 10%. It's not very smart. Lovely to be here with you all.
I can't hear you.
Again. Then in the wall.
Okay.
Wall.
Well, let me
Okay.
share with people. Here's my main book, The Arcana of the Grail Angel, The Spiritual Science of the Holy Blood and of the Holy Grail. And that's 640 pages. And it's loaded with all kinds of diagrams that explain to you the esoteric cosmology that's associated with these mysteries so that you can bring these things into your consciousness to a greater extent. And here's my second book, which is a meditative tool, The Arcana of Light on the Path. And in here, I also have the diagrams present, but I added a bunch more. There's more in the second book than there is in the first. But the first book is a study developed out of the work of Rudolf Steiner of the underground streams of esoteric Christianity, which flowed from the Brotherhood of the Holy Grail to the Order of the Knights Templar to the True Rosicrucian Order, which is not a club, and they don't have membership cards or anything like that. If you get to the point to where they think you're ready, they'll get a hold of you. And that being said, I don't wish to disrespect any association that calls themselves by that name. But in any event, you could find my books on eBay. They do crop up occasionally on Amazon at really, really high prices. Don't go there. Go to eBay. You can buy them directly from me. And anybody that wants to contribute, buy me a cup of coffee or something like that, it's paypal.me/John Barnwell 888. And for Zeesh, it's paypal.me/ what's the rest of it? Zeesh? What's the handle on it? Yeah. I can look it up for you. Jeez. Okay.
Oh, Visionary Life Hacks.
Visionary Life Hacks. But the way you spell life hacks.
Visionary Life Hacks.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual. But you could find the links for the PayPal are located beneath the both the Facebook and the YouTube podcasts. And I want to thank everybody for checking in. By the way, later on this evening, I'm going to be doing a show with my good friend Leo Lyons-Zagami, who was on Owen Schroyer yesterday on InfoWars. But we're going to be doing a discussion tonight on occult Freemasonry. And so that should be interesting and engaging conversation for those of you that are so inclined. And so I want to thank you all, and I hope that you can bring some blessing into your life and to nurture the children. Bye-bye.